What's up, Vegas? Y'all ready for this? This is exciting for me. This is my first time in Vegas, first time speaking in a general session, so lots of firsts, lots of news, and I think it's going to be good. But can we just give some acknowledgement to our Max Living family and for the heart that they put into this weekend? Can we just give them some love? As I was preparing for this talk, my biggest prayer for you guys today was that you would hear what I'm about to say, and that some of the things that I'm going to say, that they settle in to your heart, and that you can anchor back to this talk, and you can say that this is the one that changed my life. And I say that boldly because what I'm about to speak into you is what was spoken into me and is what changed my life. And so I'm not saying that everything else isn't going to be great, because there's going to be some people that are going to speak into you about your vision. There's going to be people that are going to speak into you about Max Living's vision. There's going to be people that help you have clarity and certainty. But you got to work on you first. And that's going to be what this talk is all about. I'm going to talk to you guys about the vision gap. Y'all are going to get clarity on your vision, but I want to talk to you about that gap. It's that space between where you are right now and where you want to go. That dark and scary space where people don't want to jump into because they're not sure what's going to happen. And if you stay on this side of the gap, you never get to see what God has for you. And so I want to talk to you about that gap. And my prayer for you guys is that you leave here today with an increased boldness, with a swag, not of arrogance, but of certainty and clarity. Certainty in who you are, and clarity in who God's made you to be and what He's made you for. Now, the thing is that it takes action to create action. So you have to be the one that steps into the gap, whatever your gap is, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. If you don't take action, nothing's going to change. You're going to remain the same. The only difference between the person who's more successful than you, the person that you look up to, or the person that you praise and see, the person that's up on stage, whatever it is that they were willing to step into the gap. Even though it was scary, they were willing to take it on. And I want to give you guys that boldness and that certainty behind that, because the reality is that it's your vision. It's your gap. It's your reality. It's nobody else's. God gave you a vision that some other people may not understand what it is. That's okay, because He gave it to you, not to them. So focus on what your vision is. Focus on what your reality is. And so I want to just tell you a little story. I want to get a little bit vulnerable here. So 3 years ago, I signed up for a half Ironman. When I signed up for it, I had this great determination. I had this idea of what I was going to accomplish. I had this vision of crossing the finish line in Racine, Wisconsin. If you don't know anything about half Ironmans, it takes hours and hours and hours and days and weeks and months of preparation. And I let those hours and those days and those weeks and those months become bigger than the vision that I had when I signed up for that. And what happened is I knew that I wasn't prepared enough. I knew that in my head I was afraid to run 13.1 miles at the end of doing everything else. The first 56 miles didn't scare me, but it was the 13.1 miles that scared the crap out of me. And so what did I do? I froze. I let fear become my reality because I didn't think I could do it. And so, the day before the race, I got in my car. I drove up to Racine, Wisconsin. I got my packet, I got back in the car, and I drove back home. That's a 2.5-hour drive just to pick up a packet that was nothing in there. Because I wanted the stuff, right? Now, here's the deal. I let fear become who I was. And that seed anchored into me. It anchored into my practice. I became, in my head, a failure. I became a less than. I became not who God created me to be and not who God created me to do. And that clouded everything that I was. And I let that seed of doubt become my reality. And then the pain of staying on this side of the gap was so much better than the pain of going into the gap and going through it and trying to run that half marathon at the end. So, sometimes we get blinded by the gap. But instead, I want you guys to become fueled by the gap. I want you to see that gap and push through it. Take the steps necessary to make sure that you're reaching your goals and doing what you need to do. I'm going to tell you a story that I heard last April. I was driving down to St. Louis to speak. I was talking to my best friend before this on the phone with her, like in my head and out to her. I was like, I don't know why they picked me to come talk. I don't know why they picked me to do this. I don't know why me, this and that. I was less than that fear of doubt was still anchored into me. And then we got off the phone, and by the end of the conversation, it was, well, why wouldn't it be you? Why wouldn't they choose you? Why wouldn't they have you come down there and speak into them? And then I listened to this book, and it's by Lisa Nichols. If you haven't listened to her stuff, she's amazing, Lisa Nichols. This book is called No Matter What. I highly recommend that, especially if you're stuck on this side of the gap and you want to move on. But she told this story that has completely and forever changed my life. There's this guy who was going out for a walk. And he went out, and he went down the stairs and took a left. Got a couple houses down. He noticed that there was this older couple sitting on their porch, and they were reading the morning news, and they were sipping on their coffee, rocking back and forth on their rocking chairs, just enjoying the day, right? And as he got a little bit closer, he started to hear some noises, some moaning and some howling, and got a little bit closer, and he could see that there was a dog sitting directly between the two of them, just sitting there comfortably, but moaning and groaning and howling. And so he's like, well, that's weird, and just kept moving forward, right? And so the next morning he got up, went for his walk, went down the same route, got closer to the house, saw the cute little couple on the rocking chairs, and saw the cute little dog. Same thing, moaning and groaning. He's like, dude, that's so weird. Like, I don't understand. Like, how are they not hearing what I'm hearing? It's loud and it's annoying. And so the next day, he's like, if that dog is still sitting there, I'm going to ask. I'm going to work up the courage to ask. So he finally did. He got up to the rocking chairs, and he said, excuse me, ma'am. She hollered back, yes, sir. And he said, what's up with your dog? Why is he just sitting there? I've walked by here the past 3 days, and he's just moaning and groaning. He looks comfortable, but he's moaning. Is something wrong with him? And she brings her newspaper down a little bit so she can see him and just says, young man, he's sitting on a nail. And he goes, well, that's weird. Why doesn't he just move? And the lady laughed, and she said, because the pain of sitting on the nail is much less than getting up and moving. It doesn't hurt enough to move, and he's become too comfortable. So my question for you is what nail are you sitting on? That it hurts just enough to complain about on your Facebook or your Instagram feeds or to your friends or call your coaches and complain about it, but it doesn't hurt enough to get up off the nail and make a difference and make a move. So I want you to reflect this weekend of what are the nails in your life? What are the things that you need to address? What are the things that are attacking you every single day? Maybe it's people. Maybe it's places. Maybe it's things. That's not who God created you to be or to do. So figure out what the nails are in your life. And once you get off those nails, guess what happens? Things start to change. God starts to move. You see, what happened was, for me, is once I heard that song, I continued driving to St. Louis, and I was like, that's it. I'm getting off this freaking nail. I'm done complaining about crap. I'm done even talking about it because that's not my reality. So I figured out what the nails were, and in the next 6 months, what happened was my practice doubled. Doors opened. Doors closed. I met my future husband. Side note on that is that we have no other details, so all of you can stop asking that this weekend. We are getting married, and that's about all we know. So, with that being said, I want you guys to let the fear fuel your mission. Let it fuel you. Don't let it stop you and freeze you and not let you go any further. Because what looks like an obstacle is just a training. Closed doors don't mean that God isn't opening a new way. Increased cost does not mean that God isn't calling you. The presence of a battle doesn't mean the absence of God in the war. God carries you through the hard detours and circumstances. He's with you everywhere you go, right next to you. You see, this October, I get to cross the finish line of a half Ironman. And I know that because I've become a different person in the last 3 years. I've become the person that needs to cross the finish line at an Ironman. So I get to cross the finish line with my fiance and one of my best friends. And there's hard work, and there's tears, and there's sweat, and there's days that I don't want to jump in the cold pool. Hashtag do it anyway. Right? Allow God to move in your heart and shape your vision. Let Him shape you. Don't try to shape it yourself. Let Him move in your life. Let His truths become your reality. Get into alignment with what He has and walk with Him. Watch Him exceed your expectations. Your vision for you is much smaller than God's vision for you. You have to realize that. You have to see that. You have to know that He is for you and not against you. And when you walk with His ways, things start to change. Step into the gap. Cross your finish line. Not all of you are going to do half Ironmans or Ironmans or anything that has anything to do with exercise. That's okay. It's your vision. This is mine. Give God the glory in every single thing that you do. Everything. To God alone be the glory. If you can anchor into that, your life is going to change. Write this down. You are, or I am, who God has made me to be. And that is enough to fulfill what He's called me to do. I am who God has made me to be, and that is enough to do what He has called me to do. Go out and glorify God. Have fun along the way. Seek out joy, and your life is going to be fun. What we do is fun. We get to see people's lives change and transform, and along the way, we get to change our own lives. And this one's for Steel. We practice and we train, and we practice and we train, and we become warriors, and we become passionate for what we do, and we don't give up, even if other people around you don't understand. Be blessed today, guys.